When was the last time you laughed? I mean, really laughed. Not a chuckle at something inappropriate your mate said, or a slight exhale through your nose while doom-scrolling memes on Instagram. I mean laughed so hard you felt like you were dying. When was the last time you felt that way about a film? Comedy as a genre has become less popular in recent years. That's not to say that there aren't films with comedic moments, but the comedy comes second. The age of franchises has delivered big-budget action comedies, but few great comedies first and foremost. But what if I told you the best comedy I've seen in years is a black and white film which takes inspiration from the silent era, Looney Tunes, and video games? Nope, this isn't a pretentious, obscure arts film with schizophrenia. If you love great slapstick comedy, get ready for an absolute action-packed ride, full of more hilarious gags than you can shake a stick at. I'm talking about Hundreds of Beavers. It's not an understatement to say that this film is a live-action Looney Tunes. The surreal tone is set early, with all the animals played by actors in silly costumes. Many of the gags and setups are so ridiculous they usually be reserved for cartoons. The variety and density of creative jokes is insane. Airplane is considered one of the greatest comedies of all time. One of the reasons is the sheer density of quality jokes. In the 88-minute runtime, there's a new joke every 15 to 30 seconds. Hundreds of Beavers is much the same in that respect, with multiple great gags per minute, but in some ways I think it's even more creative. Airplane uses clever wordplay, characterization, and props to get its gags. Hundreds of Beavers uses perspective, funny cuts, props, animation, costumes, and puppets. Jokes build on previous ideas, developing in subversive ways. Some jokes rely on physical performance, others on animation, and others are funny because two men stroking a vacant man in a horse costume is inherently absurd. In this 19th century supernatural winter epic, a drunken Applejack salesman must go from zero to hero and become North America's greatest fur trapper by defeating hundreds of beavers. That's the logline, but it doesn't even scratch the surface of everything which happens in this film. It's a pretty standard 1 hour 48 minutes, but by the time I finished watching it, it felt like I'd watched a 3-hour action-packed comedy adventure. The film builds and evolves. At first, it's a lovable fool trying to survive in the wilderness. Then it's a romance. Then it's a horror. Then the fool becomes a competent tracker with his improvements shown through upgrades in tools and techniques, much like a video game. By the end of the second act, he has refined and combined his techniques to the point where trapping is comically easy. I can't emphasize how this is presented with a video game type aesthetic. The cutaways and animations of him moving around a map are straight out of Mario. Not to mention the trap counter and the use of novelty coins for him to buy stuff. The third act feels like a big adventure film, akin to Indiana Jones or Star Wars, albeit on a shoestring budget. An unrelenting build might leave some audiences exhausted, but personally I think it's brilliant. Despite the variation, it's not tonally deaf. The style does remain consistent throughout, and the comedic element is always there. The story is elaborate, not convoluted. When I finished watching it, the first thing I did was call a friend up, get them to come over to my house, and sit down and watch it all over again. It's not just the jokes that are visual, it's the storytelling as well. Beneath its silliness is a detailed script. Ideas and characters are seeded early. Some are gags with a long payoff, others are major plot points, but like all well-written films, nothing feels forced in, nothing is shown for no reason. Scenes are rarely just funny moments, they're also setups for major plot points later. Much like Edgar Wright's films, almost everything is a Chekhov's gun. This is made even more important since there's no dialogue. All you get from the characters are grunts, screams, and hums, or Honestly, it reminds me of the original LEGO Star Wars games. You never feel lost. Despite the wackiness, you always know what the characters are doing and why they're doing it. The performances are so expressive. Strong makeup helps the actors, similar to the black and white films of the silent era. When it comes to the actors in animal costumes, alterations and animation and clever blocking helps express thoughts and emotions. The striking visual style sucks you into this black and white dreamlike world. The characters, whilst absurd, are expressive and lovable. I was sitting on my sofa, literally watching a man chase other fully grown men in animal costumes around the snow. And you know what? Not only was I laughing the hardest I had in recent memory, I was also on the edge of my seat. The two creative masterminds behind this piece are Mike Cheslik and Ryland Brickson Tews. The pair wrote the film together, with Mike directing and editing the film on his home computer and Ryland playing the lead. It took 4 years to raise the micro budget of $150,000 for the film. To some, $150,000 might sound like a lot, but in film terms, that's almost nothing. Compared to other indie films such as Shaun of the Dead, The Machinist, After Sun, their budget is minuscule. Because of this, the creative pair took on most of the roles. There are supporting actors, but the vast majority of the film is just Ryland with a few people in animal costumes. It was also shot entirely on the Panasonic GH5. Despite being capable of shooting 4K, they chose to shoot in 1080p black and white. This was partially for stylistic reasons, but also definitely to help the simple visual effects look better. $10,000 was just spent on the costumes. 6 beavers, 5 dogs, 2 rabbits, 1 raccoon, 1 wolf, 1 skunk, 1 horse, and a partridge in a pear tree. Any shots where there's more than 1 wolf or hundreds of beavers was just one actor cloned in post. The visual effects are so simple, but because of the grainy black and white style, they look completely intentional. After seeing the behind the scenes, you really see how simple the effects are. This shot of a bunch of maggots in a box is just different members of the crew with their fingers wiggling from underneath the box. This shot of the snowman's fishing rod falling is just a shot of a sea stand holding a fishing rod and another shot of some balls of snow which are then superimposed in post to make a snowman. Here, when the trapper sneezes, they use an edited Shutterstock GIF. Seriously, this is just a GIF from Shutterstock. You can literally Google this and download this yourself. After 4 years of what I imagine to be a pretty on and off production schedule, the film premiered at Fantastic Fest in September of 2022 and went on to receive wide critical acclaim. As of 2024, it's been released in a select few theatres and is now available online to rent. You can get it on YouTube, Prime Video, or Apple TV. You can also buy the Blu-ray. The film has even made money, having grossed a little under $1.5 million. It goes to show you that it doesn't matter if you don't have a massive budget, you can still make an artistically brilliant and profitable film. Whilst researching this video, I found a clip where the creative duo answered some questions at a Q&A. They ended the Q&A by running around on stage, attacking the actors in animal costumes from the film, much to the audience's delight. You can tell that these guys are a real laugh and genuinely love what they've created. So do I. Hundreds of Beavers is a visually striking, original, and hilarious film. This was a debut feature film made over years on very little money. I do think we're coming out of this franchise-obsessed era. People have gotten a bit sick of these big budget, bland films. The 2020s is uttering a whole new era of independent film auteurs and creators. So if you're sick of the bland franchises, yearn for a great slapstick, or want to see 2 men per man in a horse costume, check out the film online. I want to support filmmakers like these as much as possible. I can't wait to see what they do next. And I hope films like this inspire the next generation of maverick minds.